Hi, my name is Shanti Kauffman,
And I'm Edel,
and we are presenting on family separation policy.
and the efforts to reunite the families that have been separated.
So one of Trump's main reason of being in office is because he had campaigned a lot on the promise of stricter immigration policies, and many people had agreed to his immigration policies because they believed that they were the immigrants were taking away jobs from the citizens that were already here, as well as making the economy worse. So the government recruited Department of Human Services to split up the families, and they never had a system to split the families, and they never had a proper system in place to track and reunify families together. In July of 2017, began the separation trials in El Paso, Texas, to be able to catch criminals who were crossing the border with drugs or other illegal substances, and that had children that was captured, and so then they weren't able to take away the children, and so that is why they take away the children. And then the other reason was to prevent illegal immigration to coming over. But instead of it just being those who were being criminals, they had it so parents were separated from children, especially families that were seeking asylum from crimes and
really dangerous situations in their home country.
And so it was said that children were ripped away from families physically with lots of aggression. This action was to stop future border crossing. It was to scare them enough to think that they would think that not to come over. Immigration, custom enforcement, and Custom and Border Patrol viewed the program as a success and wanted to expand it, not just in Texas. In 2018, policy ruled out that around 107,212 families were separated at the border. Many were asylum seekers leaving dangerous situations in their home country. The leading voices in the immigration stated that the U.S. does not continue to carry out the separation policy, it would mean the end of their countries as we know it. They say the policy was targeting criminals violating U.S. laws, but it was used against all families that were crossing the border. 2,814 kids labeled unoccupied as minors and sent to shelters, forcefully separated from their families. And many of these shelters were starting to become overcrowded. And so many of these kids ended up either in the streets or in other areas. In 2018, because there were many riots from the community members and the people around the United States, Trump passed an executive order saying detained families should stay together instead of being separated, but he never specified how to reunite families who had already been separated. California Southwest State District Court said that Trump's policy was a violation of constitutional rights of family integrity as well as human rights. In 2018, courts granted preliminary injunction calling for governments to stop the separation, including those who are going to be deported, to make reunification of families much easier. Since 2017, so many more than 5,512 kids have been separated from their families. The effects of the policy.
It's very harmful for a lot of reasons.
Physicians of Human Rights, PHR, had interviewed many of the kids that were in these shelters and in in the foster system of how it had affected them. And so many of these children were understood that the effects that this policy had, and every child and parent had an increasing amount of trauma, with symptoms consisting with confusion, constant worry, sleeping difficulties, crying, not eating, nightmares, preoccupied thoughts, severe depression, major anxiety, physical manifestation of panic and despair, with physical symptoms of racing hearts, shortness of breath, and headaches. poor agony, hopelessness, and emotional anguish. The children that were in the shelters had age-inappropriate behavior, crying, not eating, nightmares, and a loss of developmental milestones. The few that were able to find their families were clinging on to their parents as if they were going to be taken away again. Many symptoms likely were from pre-existing trauma from their homeland countries. Many adults and kids met criteria for PTSD, depression, and anxiety. Psychological studies found that there was evidence of adverse physical and mental health effects linked to separation. PHR suggests kids and adults need access to mental health to deal with the trauma that has been affected by the family separation policy. PHS finds the separation of kids and parents constitutes as torture, cruel, inhumane, and degrading treatment. And this is the definition under the United National Convention Against Torture.
So some alternative policies that we would suggest to kind of, I guess, mitigate some of these effects and get the families back together. Obviously that being the most important thing here. So in 2019, HR 2203, the Homeland Security Improvement Act, was presented to Congress. This particular policy suggested establishing, and here I quote, an online detainee locator system for individuals held in U.S. Customs and Border Protection custody, end of quote. So that would be a way for parents and kids to locate each other, and then also for officials to use in the reunification process, which would make that a lot easier. And yeah, it also has suggestions for improvements to the system for submitting complaints about treatment in immigration facilities. So this would help to hold the agents and agencies responsible for these things accountable, and hopefully, be more responsible about their treatment of immigrants. It also suggests a ban on the separation of families, except in extreme circumstances where such action is deemed necessary for the safety or well-being of the child. Another policy that we looked at supporting is an executive order that President Biden issued in 2021. This is the executive order on the establishment of an interagency task force on the reunification of families. So the goal here, obviously, is to get the separated families back together. And it kind of outlines the way that a committee might do that and the structure of the committee and all that jazz. It also revokes some of Trump's policies on this.
I think it is very important to have the government regain the trust of its people, of realizing that they're not going to treat humans in this disgusting way. And to be able to do so, they need to put out all the effort they can is to help those families that have been affected by this policy, because with these families' mental health and having PTSD and depression, there's very limited resources for them, especially being immigrants and maybe not having places to live or proper money. And so I think the government should take responsibility for being able to provide these services for these families. So yeah, thank you for listening to our policy. Thank you.
Okay, fabulous. How do you feel about that?
I think it was pretty good.
It was good. I enjoyed your topic, and I enjoyed listening to your presentation. It was really good. Are you both seniors?
We're juniors.
Juniors. Okay, great. I have 4 kids. My oldest one is transferring from another college and will be coming into the social work department next year, coming in the fall. She'll be a junior. So when you guys are seniors, so it's exciting. I love listening to the presentations from your guys' department. They've been great. So, all right, any other questions or
Thank
anything
you.
else? Yeah, it was great. I'm gonna
Nope. Great.
move you around here. Okay, so what'll happen is when let's see, Eureka Symposium is on the 22nd of April. So you're on that day, there'll kind of be a big announcement on for our Bethel website, and then all of the presenters' links for what they recorded will be there. And so make sure that you can grab those. They're YouTube links, so you can grab them, you can share them, you can send them to your families. I would recommend that you save them, the recordings. So especially when you guys are out looking for jobs, they're great for employers to see what you did. You can always attach those to your resumes. Those links are great. So I think employers and community partners like to see some of the work that you did. I think that's important. So you guys did a great job.
Awesome. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
All right. Well, I appreciate you guys. It's okay that we started over a couple times. That's how we get what we want. So, all right, we'll see you guys later, and then just watch for those recordings to come up.
Okay.
Hey,
Thank you
see ya.
so much.
Thank you.